Hello all, in today's chapter we will be studying functions and recursions. Why are the functions required? Whenever you want to perform a particular task or whenever you want to use a particular logic again and again in your program. Suppose you want to use a particular logic around 10 times. So you will have to write that logic again and again. You have to repeat it 10 times, right? So instead of repeating it 10 times, what I will be doing is I will be creating a function out of it by defining a function. And I will be using that function instead of using that logic. The introduction is given over here. Function is a group of statements performing a specific task. It is used whenever your program becomes bigger or complexity increases. That time we go with functions. This introduction won't help us much. So let's start coding, and then things will be much clearer than going to the introduction as such. Suppose I want to remove percentage now. I have a marks of student 1. Student 1. I have a mark suppose of 4 subjects 44, 77, 98, I have marks of 4 subjects. To remove the percentage, so how do I remove the percentage of it? The total sum of all the marks, so it will be mark of 1, index 1, right? Add it. So I have to add to index 1, 2 and 3, right? Index 1, next index 2, index 3. After this, divide it. How many subjects total? 4 subjects. 1 subject for 100 marks, so total it will be divided by 400. And this total you have to multiply by 100 to get a percentage. So I will multiply by 100, print it, print percentage. I will write percentage 1 over here. It has given me 66.25%. Suppose you have to find percentage of second student, third student, fourth student. Suppose there are 10 students. So will you be repeating this process? Okay, I will write for student number 2. Suppose there is one more student. Student number 2. I will just change the marks. So this is marks 2. So same way, change it over here to marks 2. And I will name this as person 2. Person 2 over here. Run it. See, I have got 2 percentages over here. So as of now, this program is very simple. There is hardly one formula over here. Suppose the logic was too big, or this particular line, there were around 4 or 5 lines that we have to execute for one particular output, right? And those 4 or 5 lines again I have to repeat for this particular thing. Again, if I wanted to repeat it 10 times, then those 4 lines again I have to repeat, So instead of this, what I can do is, the same formula I can peg this inside a function. So we have to define a function for it. I will write it separately. We will define a function. So what this function does, it will give me the percent of student, suppose. And what does it take? It takes the marks, right? In order to find a percentage, it takes the marks. Enter. We have to write a formula for it. The formula in order to calculate a percentage is this formula. Paste it over here. Just write a percentage. See, over here I have written marks. So here it should be marks, not marks 1. Now return. Instead of percentage, I will write down P, and here return P over here. Here what I can do is, I can just write, instead of writing this thing, I can just write, let's copy this. And which marks do you want? I want marks 1 over here. Same way over here, I want marks 2 over here. I want to calculate a percentage of marks 2 over here, and here I want to calculate a percentage of marks 1. The formula is over here. Okay, it will take this formula and it will return me the value of this P. Now run it. See, I am getting the same thing over here, right? Same percentage. This percentage, both are the same. So what happens over here is, I have defined a function over here, %_st of a student. This takes marks. So it takes marks and it calculates over here. It calculates, and after calculating, it will give me the percentage, and this will be returned over here. And then I have to call out. Whenever I want to calculate the percentage of student 1 or marks, by using the marks 1, I have to calculate the percentage of it. Then what I have to do, I have to write percentage. I have to call out this function. So here I am calling this out, %_st. So after writing this, I am calling out this. But I am telling it, you take this marks 1. You take this and apply the same thing what has been done over here. You apply the same thing and return me percentage, return me P. So it will return you the percentage over here, and that has been printed over here. And the same thing is repeated over here, and you get the printed percentage of 1 and 2. So this is how you use a function. So now if I read this, function is a group of statements performing a specific task. This is a group of statements. It performs the same task. It finds the percentage over here, it finds the percentage over here. Then the second line, whenever the program gets bigger, the size and its complexity grows. It becomes difficult for a programmer to keep a track of the code, what is doing what, right? So whenever the program becomes much bigger, suppose this particular line, if this logic was for around 5 to 6 lines, suppose, so would you have written this like how I have written over here, continuous? Instead of writing this 6 lines over here, 6 lines over here, okay, if it was a bigger program as such, then, or bigger logic, then would you have repeated this 6 times, suppose the same thing, percentage you wanted to find 10 times, so 6 multiplied by 10, 60 times or 60 lines you have to write. So instead of writing it, just write over here 6 times, whatever the thing is, and you have to just write a piece of code or piece of function over here. You have to just call out once over here. So the lines will be saved and your program will look much compact, and it will give you a better look. After looking at the program, you can identify it easily. Okay, this has been called out from this particular function, and things will be much compressed. So that's what has been told in the introduction over here. So next is the example over here. You can just work this out example. We can also call out string, how it has been called out over here in the function. The next over here is the function call and function definition. So now what is function call and what is function definition? Go back over here. Function call. See over here I am calling the function %_st. You are calling this function. So this is called as the function call. You are calling out the function. You come out over here and do the required calculations. So this is called as function call. Means you are calling that function and the brackets over here, right? Function and the brackets. Next is function definition. Function definition is a set of instructions that we instruct the function to do it. So what is the set of instructions over here? The set of instructions over here is to find the percentage. So this is the set of instruction. The set of instruction over here is just one line. It can be 4 lines, it can be 5 lines, or it can be more than it. So this is a set of instructions, or whatever that we tell the function to do and return it to us is called as a function definition. The next one is a quick quiz. Write a program to greet the user with a good day using the function. Function greet. Define the function greet. In that greet you need to call out the name. Okay, whoever you want to greet it, you can just call out his name. So calling out the name, you can define gr equals good day. Good day plus the name. Return. I have to print gr I have to call out it, right? So I will write greet. I will call out this particular function, and in this particular function I have to write a name. So whichever name you pass on over here, the same name will be coming over here, and it will give me the output of this. So greet, write down, run it. It is not defined. Okay. Pass on through the strings. Run it. Yes. So it has printed me the Vishnu over here. Here we have called out strings in a particular function. Above we have called out the numbers in that particular function, right? Marks was nothing but a list consisting of numbers. Next, to this, we move towards types of functions in Python. There are built-in functions in Python and there are user-defined functions. The built-in functions are length function, print function, range function. It is mentioned over here, length, print, range. These are built-in functions. So whenever you call them, it will give you the desired output. Even there are other functions such as built-in functions, such as sum function. You just write sum and you can get the total of the numbers that you require. And user-defined functions are what we have created over here. Greet is a user-defined function I have created. Percentage, this is a user-defined function I have created. So whatever we create in our program is called as user-defined. Built-in comes whenever your Python has been installed along with it. Next is function with arguments. So over here we have already done this, right? See, whenever we pass this particular string, see over here what has been told is Vishnu is been passed, this name is been passed in the greet function. I call out this greet function and Vishnu is been passed in this greet function, and it will return me or it will print me to Vishnu. Coming towards arguments, here we have given only one argument. There can be two arguments, there can be three arguments. Functions with arguments. Initially over here we have taken only one argument over here, right? So this was one argument, name was only one argument. Suppose if I want to take two arguments, instead of name I want over here, let's say initials. See, in initials, suppose I want to write Mr. or Professor, so I will just write down Professor. Okay. I'm going to separate it out with a comma. Initials. Just add this the same way over here. So I have called out two arguments over here. Let us run this. Good day, Professor Vishnu. Right? So in the same way, you can call out three arguments, four arguments, as many arguments that are required in your program, you can call it out. Next is default parameter value. Just do the same thing. Suppose I call this out. I call this and I don't write anything inside the argument. What it will give me? It will give me an error over here. But I don't want it to give an error. Okay, suppose a person don't want to write his name. He will leave it blank. In that case, what you need to do? You have to give a default argument. Say, I will write stranger. Even if I give it blank over here, and if I define a default argument, it will take this default argument. If nothing has been passed, see over here, good day stranger. After this, the next one is recursion. So what is recursion actually? Recursion means inside a particular function, calling the same function again and again. It's called as recursive. Calling out the same particular function in whichever function you have defined it. Calling it out again and again is called as recursion. The example of recursion, we will be taking the factorial example over here. We have already worked out the factorial example in loops, right? Factorial in loops we already worked out, right? Over here in the exercise. Okay. But this factorial, by using recursive, it will be totally different as compared to what we have worked out in the loops chapter. Getting back over here, as we know factorial, if I say n of factorial, or I will say 4 of factorial, how do I write 4 of factorial? I just write it as 1 multiplied by 2 multiplied by 3 multiplied by 4. Right. In the same way, I can just write this. Instead of writing 3, what I can write it as? I can write it as 4 minus of 1. Right? 4 minus of 1 is nothing but 3. In the same way, if I write n factorial, n, yes, so this will be up to n, yes or no? In the same way, I can write as how I have written over here 4 minus 1. In the same way, I can write over here n minus of 1, right? So this n minus of 1, if I combine it, if I put a square bracket over here, this whole term, what is this whole term called as? This is also a factorial, right? This is n minus 1 factorial. So can't I write this as n minus of 1 factorial? Yes, you can write it as n minus of 1 factorial, right? So I will be using the same formula in order to develop a recursive program. For recursive program, I will write define factorial recursive. I will call out n over here. In this, I have to return this, right? Whenever I call out factorial recursive, so I should return FURN n multiplied by the same thing, right? I'm calling out the same thing over here. But instead of this, it will be n minus of 1. See, return n and multiplied by factorial recursive n minus 1. So whenever I call out this n minus 1, then what it will do? Again, this will go inside this particular function, right? And this will run again, and it will give what? It will return n minus 1 multiplied by factorial of n minus 2. Then again the factorial of n minus 2 will go over here, and it will return n minus 2 multiplied by factorial of n minus 3. The factorial of n minus 3 will give us what? N minus 3 multiplied by factorial of n minus 4. So this will go on repeating in itself till it returns 1, and after 1 it will return 0, and after 0 it will go to negative. So in that case, if I don't want it to go to negative, so I have to define over here if n equals to 1 or n equals to 0. In this case, it should return 1, because 0 factorial is 1, we know, and 1 factorial is also 1. So hence I have written as 1 over here. So after this, we will run it here. Let me call this factorial underscore recursive. Find a factorial of 5. Instead of 5, I will write 4. Run it. It is given an error over here. Oh, it is 0 over here, not O. Run it. Yes, 24. What is factorial of 5? It is 120, right? Yes, it has returned me 120. So this is functioning fine. So recursive is what? Whenever inside a particular function you want to call the same function again, So that time we use recursive, and you can't use recursive in every second program, right? It is used very rarely. See, I have explained it in a very good fashion. 4 and factorial of 3. Then again it will be 3 and factorial of 2. Again this will be called out. Again when this is been called out, it will be what? 2 into factorial of 1. Then again when this has been called out, 1. Next we move towards the exercise. First problem, write a Python program using function to find the greatest of the 3 numbers. Problem number 1. See, I will solve all the problems very fast now. I assume that you know. Over here we have to find out the maximum. So I will define a function called as maximum. And here I have to take 3 numbers, num1, num2, num3. If num1 is greater than num2, if this is greater than num2, number 1 is greater than num2, you just compare it with num3, right? Compare the num1 with num3. If this is greater, then it will return num1. If num1 is greater than num3, then it will return num1. Else it will return num3. Obviously, if this is not greater, then this is greater, right? Num3 is greater. If num1 is greater than num2, if suppose this fails, which means num2 is greater, right? If num2 is greater, then what you can write over here? Else. See, and this should come directly below this else, right? Else, if you can write, if num2 is greater than num3, return num2, else return num3. Next I will just call this out, m equals maximum. From this I will just give it 3 numbers, suppose 9, 4, 77. I print, call out m, run it. See, it has returned me the maximum value over here. The maximum value is 77, right? So over here what I have done is, I will just repeat it again. First I have compared num1 and num2. If num1 is greater, then you compare it with num3. If num1 is greater, again over here, then you return num1. If this fails, which means num3 is greater, then it will return num3. And if this fails, then num2 is greater, right? If number 2 is greater, then go over here, compare it with 3. If number 2 is greater, yes, you printed this. If this fails, then it will give you number 3. It's that simple. Next, we move towards problem 2. Okay, convert Celsius to Fahrenheit. This is very simple. You go online, write Celsius to Fahrenheit, run it. After running it, you will be getting a conversion table. Let's have a look. So let me check for the formula over here. So this is the formula to convert Celsius to Fahrenheit. Okay, I will copy this, just paste this. Celsius to Fahrenheit. So this is the formula, right? Fair, I will write fair equals, this I will write Celsius. Initially I have to create a function, define cell to fair, cell to Fahrenheit. self value, return fair. Over here I have to pass on the value for Celsius. Suppose it is 37 Celsius. I pass on this. Let me print it in Fahrenheit. So I will write over here Fahrenheit. The Fahrenheit value of as a F string over here. It will be better. Fahrenheit value of 37 is run it. There is some error over here of use a multiplication sign. Run it again. The Fahrenheit value of 37 is 98.6, right? So it is working fine. How do you prevent a Python print function to print a new line at the end? So let's run this first. Print hello on how are you? What is the issue? Let's just run this. So now, what is the question? How do you prevent a Python print function to print a new line at the end? So over here, see, whenever I write a print hello, this has taken one particular line. Then all, this will go to the second line, and then the next will go to the third line. So how should I avoid this? Means going towards the next line. Means after hello, I want all over here. Just besides it. Then after all, I want how are you all. Okay. I want it to get printed continuously. So what I will do over here, you have to make a slight modification. I have to write end equals. So just add this. So this will avoid the print command to take the next line. So what it has done is, after end, see over here I have not given any space. So it has got printed continuously over here. There is no spacing between hello and all. See over here. Then all and how. There is no spacing. If you want to leave a space, you give a space over here. Automatically the space will be printed over here. Right? So if I don't write end over here, it is assumed as \n. And it will take the next line character. So this will go, all will go to the next line if I don't write an end over here. So if end is not present over here, it means it takes the next line character, or it will go to the next line. By default it is a next line if I don't write an end over here. After this, the next one is I write a recursive function to calculate the sum of first n natural number. So this I leave it up to you. Write a recursive program for first n natural number. See, I have already find the recursive program for factorial, right? In the same way, if I want to find the sum of natural numbers, so what I can use, or what formula I can use, as I have used this formula, right? So in the same way, for problem number 4, what we can say is, okay, I will give you a hint for this. As I have written for factorial, in the same way, if I want to write sum of the first n natural number, the sum of first n natural numbers, can't I write it like 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus, it will go on, plus n. The previous number of n will be what? It will be n minus of 1. So can't you write this So this is what sum, okay, sum of n, right? So this whole term, can't you write sum of n minus 1? So what I will write this as, I can write this as sum of n minus 1, and here it will be n. So I will write this as n. I will just rearrange this. So can't I write it in this fashion, right? So I can write it in this fashion and I can perform the same thing as I have done for the factorial problem. Next, see the same thing we have done in the loops, right? Same way, but this is in a reverse fashion. So let me write a program. I assume that you know all this. There is a slight modification over here. And for 6, we'll write for I in range n. I have to call out n over here. Next, I will write print of star multiplied by n minus of 1. You run this. So this is n minus of I. Error over here. See. So I have done this for 6. What is required over here is 3, right? What is required 3 over here? Yes, n equals 3. So we have done it successfully. After this, next is write a Python function to convert inches to centimeters. Say I have already done Celsius to Fahrenheit. So I leave this up to you. Perform this, and after performing this successfully, after getting the answers, paste the program in the comment section below that yes sir, I have done it. Next, write a Python function to remove the word given from a string and strip it at the same time. What is strip command? Let me run this first. Write this equals, I'll leave some spaces. Vishnu is a professor, I will write. I will leave some spaces even after this. Print. First I will print it normally how it should look, and then next I will print it after stripping it. So I will write this dot strip in the bracket. So I will run it normally how it should be first over here, and then I will strip it. So let's run and see what happens over here. See, normally when I have run it, it has taken the same spaces whatever I have given it at the start and at the end. See, whatever the spaces I have given it at the start and at the end, it has taken the same spaces, right? If you compare it, we get the same spacing over here. But over here, what it has done is, there are no spacing over here. It has removed this initial spacing and it has removed the last spaces too. What does the strip command does is, it removes the spacing at the start and at the end of the line. So that is a function of a strip command. Now what it has told is, write a Python function to remove a given word. So you have to remove a word from a string and strip it at the same time. So you have to remove the word and also you have to strip it. In order to strip it, what we have to do is, we have to develop a new function for it. I will type the new function for it. I will have to define a function, define, how to remove and how to strip it, right? Remove and strip. You have to remove a particular word and you have to strip it. Open this. I will be taking a string of a word, new string, str equals str. So I have written a program over here. So what this program does is, over here I have written remove and strip. So first it will take a string. So what is a string? This is the string over here. So it will take a string. So I have defined a string over here, this. So it will take a string over here. Afterwards, which word you want to remove from it? Which word? I want to remove the word Vishnu. So I have to write over here replace. You have to replace that particular word with a blank. So there is not even a space over here, right? So I have to replace it with a blank. From this you can remove that particular word. And afterwards, finally, you have to strip it using the strip command, right? So here the word has been replaced, and second, over here it has been stripped. So two functions are being done in this particular main function over here. So now I will run it. Yes. So this name Vishnu has been removed from here. Yes, it has been removed, and only this has been printed. Only this has been printed. There are no spaces. The spaces are been stripped out. The last one, write a Python function to print a multiplication table of a given number. This is very easy. I leave it up to you. So we are done for today's class. Thank you all.